stuck here. The cops won't bother me. Guys, today I want to show you some types of GPSs I have used over the years. And as you can see, there's some older looking GPSs like these two Garmin's, and of course a smartphone and an eTrex Legend. This one's a Garmin Street Pilot 2720 that I bought for $50 a few years ago. This is a eTrex Legend. It was about $100. You can see it's quite chunky. There's a GPS Garmin 376C and an old iPhone. Let's start looking at this one. This is the Garmin Street Pilot 2720. They've come up with different versions. It's wired directly to the battery. It's got a cradle. And the reason I like to use this is because it's pretty rugged. It's got a small screen, but also it's got buttons, and the buttons are very easy to use. So this Street Pilot takes quite a bit of time to boot up, and it's a pretty decent one. It's also touchscreen, but the best thing about this particular Garmin is that it uses Garmin maps, and it's very easy to use, and it's got very simple buttons. So the first screen is this. It's the view map screen, and you can either push this or you can click on map. And I find that the good thing about these Garmin GPSs is that it's very easy to see the streets and the mountainous areas for riding, and it's very easy to see as you're riding. A lot of times when you get a GPS phone, it's very difficult to see. Also, it's very rugged. The plastic is very good, and it's got a layout on here, so it's touchscreen, and even with gloves it's very easy to kind of zoom in and out. So if you click on map and you push it twice, you can have a trip meter, very easy to reset, lose power, and that is one of the reasons on the back I put tape on here so it stays firmly attached, because if you do this, it completely turns off. This is the Garmin 376C. I do not have powered it on. It uses a 12-volt lithium battery, and it's really good. This is my favorite GPS. And I've had a 276C, and you might be looking at this and going, why is this a good GPS, even for 2020? Well, there's a lot of customizable features about this. And you can see I haven't turned this on in quite some time, and the battery's still good. You can there's buttons. There's plenty of buttons here, so it's very easy to use using gloves, and most of the buttons you're going to be using are in and out. If I was to ride cross country on this GPS, as I've done quite a few times, you have to take along memory cards, and I have two memory cards that have the entire United States on there, so it's kind of a hassle. If you don't have the memory cards, and you're unfortunate to have just one memory card, you have to upload maps along the way using a PC. So, antiquated system, but it's got a very good backlight, and you can control it easy. I mean, you don't have to go into the menu modes. All the buttons are easily accessible. So this is the power button, and I can click on it, and if I want more light, and if I want the sounds to be louder. And it's kind of cool because if you lower the dimmer, you can go from 14 hours of battery life. Now if I bring it up, you can see I have 6 hours of battery life. By hitting quit, you get your trip meter. Go to the menu, you can reset it just by doing very simple strokes, and you kind of learn this along the way. Of course, it is an older GPS, so no touchscreen, but you don't need it. This one is so easy to use. So let's say I wanted to put down a waypoint. I just push and hold enter, push it okay once more, and there's a waypoint in there. And I find that if I find a good location, the best thing I can do is just lay a waypoint, and I do that for really curvy roads or scenic roads. I'll put like a waypoint in there. Another GPS that I have used before is an eTrex Legend. At one point I had a eTrex eMap, which was decent, very similar. This one uses two AA batteries, and So this is why this is a good hiking GPS, but it doesn't work very well. You'll need a cradle for it. This is a ram mount, but this one is not color. It's very hard to see. It does work, but something must have happened to it. It doesn't seem to work very well. It goes out quite often. It's almost like a dot matrix sort of style of screen, and it doesn't work very well. Another option for a motorcycle map is, of course, a phone GPS. What I'm using here is CGIC. CGIC is an offline GPS for a phone. You can on Android and iPhone. It's a very good one. I think it's probably the best one I found. You download these offline maps and you can use it. The good thing about the phone is that it's very high resolution. It's got a really good brightness, but unfortunately it doesn't really help. Even in the camera, you can't really see the roads that well, and in direct sunlight, this is very difficult to use. I don't really like it very much, and I tried to not use a phone GPS if I'm really riding around. And I wanted to put a waypoint. You know, you have to like click and hold it, and then it's very difficult with gloves, and that's why I like the buttons on GPSs. You can put a waypoint really down. You don't have to stop. You don't have to pull out your gloves and write something. You can just put a waypoint, and that's it. We are going to be installing a external power source on the battery so I can power up my GPS, and that way I can charge various other things. Yamaha was pretty good about putting a 12 volt up there, but I wanted to tap onto the existing battery, which sits right here. Yamaha was very smart because they've done this a lot with bikes, and using just a wrench you can snap off these bolts really easy. And the goal is not to scratch the tank here. There we go. You could put something here so you don't scratch it, but pretty simple system. I do appreciate that Yamaha did this. I find it odd that the battery is mounted in this location, but it's not that big of an issue because, you know, the battery on this does not go bad. It's a pretty new one too. To remove this plastic, but because I wanted to hide the plastics, I'm going to remove this. There we go. So this is my first time seeing this, and it looks like somebody was really into doing this electrical stuff. I don't understand this, so, but this looks kind of cheap over here. So the reason I want to put one of these is that I can put my battery tender, but also I have this, and this is like a USB charger, so I can charge whatever on here. But this was very surprising, and it was tucked in a way that it was very hard to see, but I'm very surprised it's there. I'm actually going to remove the other one from there. This is connected to the ignition. I don't know how they're doing it, but it only turns on with the ignition. So they did a really good job. This is well done. I kind of wish they put like something with plastic so it protects it better, but yeah, you can't go wrong with this. I think I did pretty well finding this deal, and I love buying bikes that all the hard work was done. This is my positive, this is my negative, and I see the negatives going to here, positives going to here. So I'm going to see if I can power up the GPS using this system, using the ignition. My GPS connected to the wire, but the wire is not connected yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch the negative and the positive, and it shouldn't power up. So if I touch this, what usually happens if there is power running through the cables, the GPS will fire up. And it doesn't. Oh, it is. It did power up. That's it. Okay, that's ignition. So I'm going to turn it off. Nothing. But if I leave the positive here, I put my negative here, that's connected. But it won't work with the bike off. So that's what we want. So this is a much better idea. I have the negative connected, and now I'm going to connect the positive onto here. This is just going to give me power when the ignition is on. And now I'm just going to run this wire, which is the GPS, over and under. I'm going to give it a little bit of play. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is just put the plastic back. Alright, now we're just going to be putting the plastic on here. Things that I like about handlebars and motorcycles, it's very easy to mount a GPS. And on these, it uses a RAM mount. So the only thing I really need is to put a clamp on here, and that's going to hold it. I usually like to put it right in the middle, try to get the GPS as low as possible, and I think it'll work out. So let's go ahead and mount that bracket. The electrical tape on here. This is going to help my paint job here. And we're going to turn on the key and see if it lights up. That means that we have a power to the ignition. And there we go. Alright guys, we are pretty much set with the GPS installed. Next thing we're going to do is go out and ride it and test it out. Alright, so it's a little bit weird like reaching against the key here from the GPS, but hopefully if we did everything right, the GPS should turn on. And there we go, it's powering up. Start the bike. We have a full tank of gas. We're going to go for a little spin, and I'm going to show you why this GPS is so darn good. So the simplicity of this GPS works really well, and it's hard to see on video, but I love that I can change the track color by clicking twice on the menu and going up the tracks and putting it maybe I want it to be blue. And the reason I like my tracks is that I like to find places, and oftentimes I'll find that I will go over a road again that I thought I went on, and I just like to kind of not step on the same road. At one point this Garmin 376C was very expensive, but it's fully customizable, and I think that a lot of the ADD guys like this because you can simply change a lot of the aspects. For example, I can see my voltage, wattage 13.7, which I think seems kind of low, but my speed 67 miles an hour, and then you can change the destination. You can put anything on these fields by changing the data fields. Well, squids, thanks for riding with me. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and that subscribe and all of that stuff. And I'm going to see you in the next video.